Hello, you're either watching or listening to Hacking the Afterlife podcast. I'm your co host, Jennifer Schaefer, along with.
Rich Martini.
Yay.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
Hi,
Well,
James.
I gotta say, it's been a rough week for me. I got a really bad cold. Thank goodness for this Zoom. You don't have to be around my cold. But so I apologize to the audience for the raspiness of my voice. I'll do my best not to talk because, people really would prefer that.
My husband was sick too. I managed, knock on wood, to like get it unscathed. I know. A lot of people, I felt June being the month of people getting sick. I
Wow.
felt it last year. I felt something like a mini, and I said to people, I'm like, when you're flying or traveling, you just have to wear your mask. You just, take precautions. If you see don't take someone saying that they have allergies is that. Like you
Well, I
just,
can remember the guy. I was in Trader Joe's, and this guy, tourist, just let go of a huge, blah. And I actually looked at him like, "Are you serious? You don't even put your shoulder or whatever." Anyway, so I don't want to blame him, but let's just say whatever. All right, I do want to start with something kind of interesting. I
sure.
I got a call today from somebody that I don't think you met him at Contact in the Desert, but he stopped by my booth. His name is Kurt, and he's a law enforcement guy. But I didn't know that. We started talking, and then we ended up doing a guided meditation, which I ended up filming with my friend Max, making a documentary about what the kind of work we're doing. And he had a really very interesting journey. But he called me today because he said there's a seed that you planted in my head, you and Jennifer, talking about how you can ask your higher self to talk to people, their higher selves, to get a positive outcome. And the story he wanted to tell me was that a friend of his was at the riots or the conflagration in Los Angeles, and he saw that, and this was an officer who was trying to protect other officers, and so he saw that there was a problem about to happen, and he said he heard my voice in his head, and he said, I want to ask my higher self to ask the higher selves of these people not to do this, to go the other way. And he said an officer from the area called him later and said, I don't know what happened, but suddenly everybody just turned around and went the other way. He said, of course, they were looting the other way. But he just thought, wow, if that's possible, I wonder if it's possible that we can pray or put our intent, but to ask
Absolutely.
our higher selves, to ask the other higher selves if they can. And what's the harm? What's the harm in trying?
I had somebody, it was interesting. I have a very dear friend of mine. It's along those lines that of prayer. And she goes, well, do you believe in God? And I'm like, I don't believe in the white guy in the sky that's making, that's judging us. I believe it is a energy source, whatever you want to call it. I believe in something much more powerful than us, but I also believe that we're all having experiences within this paradigm of this, what I believe is a matrix of God. God, I wish we can get rid of the terminology. But that being said, when you talk about prayer, I am a firm believer in prayer. There is no wrong way to pray. I, I put bubble wrap around my kids. I dropped my daughter off at the airport today. She's flying back east. I know she's going to be fine. I look for endpoints. I know everything's going to be okay. But I also have been very, I just bubble wrap her, it's my form of prayer, bubble wrapping her for safety,
Right. But
right? And I do that with, you know, I do that with my clients. I do that before I go into an event. I don't, s- you know, I I have learned that I absolutely love working with what I believe is the divine, even within my cases. And today I talked to somebody's, some, not only their relatives, but I talked to their higher selves of their kids, and that's how I get the information about their children. And she said, well, what is it that we're not, that my children need that they can't say? And each one of them told me exactly what it was that they needed.
Wow.
One needed sleep, you know, 6-year-old needed sleep and he was going through a growth spurt and all this stuff, you know, and they're like, yeah, he's going through this growth spurt, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And this other one didn't have the terminology yet to describe how smart he is. Like he's super smart, so he's a little bit more quiet, but he needs different outlets. He needs to be asked direct questions in order to formulate answers. I don't know. It was very interesting.
Well, it's what's great about it, and it's what we've been doing for 10 years, which is asking people on the other side to assist, to give us help. And people don't realize that you can do that at any time, whether it's a religious figure or whether it's a relative. Aunt Betty, Uncle Pete, they can show up and help us on some level to find the way, the path through, especially when things are going really difficult. And
Yeah.
so,
And grief, for instance, grieving, sorry to interrupt, but
uh,
grieving, I'm going to be Richard Martini today.
please.
Grieving, I asked, you know, when I remembered, I'm like, Dad, please make my heart better. And I would instantly feel this warmth,
Mm.
like instant. But I have to, I had to remember to say, hey, I just need to be uplifted. Can you please take away
But
some?
it's very specific, your dad, you see? And then some people just they throw a prayer to the universe without thinking, why don't I just ask somebody that I know? Because they
Yeah.
might be able to help. Well, speaking of people we know, we always like to ask our friend Luana Anders to come by. She's the moderator of our podcast.
Mhm.
Passed away in 1996 and has been helping Jennifer and I for the past at least 10 years. Does she have anyone on her list that she wants to talk to?
She wanted to remind us, she said they really loved Contact in the Desert. And she's mentioning Gordon, that we still need to talk to Gordon, which I find funny because I didn't think about it.
We still need to talk to who?
Gordon.
Oh, Gordon, that's right. But we did talk. I did a meditation with his wife.
Oh,
I
I
don't know
love
if I told you that. And so the
talk
guy
about.
who runs Contact in the Desert, he and his wife were there, and I spent about a half hour with his wife, and she had a very revelatory moment where she saw her mother and heard an answer to a question she'd had. You know, whether it came from her mother or however it came to her, but it came to her. And so I just wanted you to know that because when I ran into Gordon, I said, he was like, when are you guys going to call me? And I kind of went, well, I spent a half hour with your wife. And I had the feeling that she was the person who needed to hear whatever message it was that came through.
I believe so too.
But I'd love to do that. Sure. Go ahead.
Prince
All
again.
right, Prince. That's lovely. The last time you showed up last week, it was your birthday. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. Did I say happy birthday or did there was
You did
something
not. So, dude, happy birthday.
he showed me though? I could have sworn I might have said his birthday. At least I thought it.
You saw a candle. But anyway, Prince, what do you want to say? You're always welcome.
Mm. So he showed up. I know that this is him showing up again. So he's like, do not discount it. And I'm like, I've learned. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so what is it that you want to talk about? And he goes, discounting people on the other side. Don't discount when we come through. Don't make it he says I'm different, but don't make it like, you know,
Challenge.
a challenge. Like, okay, thank you. He was showing me earlier today, I had someone that I was talking to, and they didn't fill their relative, and the relative came through saying they just don't, they chalk. I'm there. I've shown them things, but they still discount it, and so that's what he's saying.
Because
Don't
they don't hear them the way they know to hear them. They don't hear their voice. Instead,
correct.
you get a message that might be a song coming on the radio.
And he showed the way that this person could connect with them. And so they come through, showing us, like, for instance, one of my clients said, the moon was my thing with my dad, and the moon was my thing with my dad. So, and that person showed the moon. So when you're looking at the moon or you're watching a sunset and you get a thought, a lot of times they're giving you that thought, that they're with you, watching it with you. Not that you're thinking of that. And then that's when you do the Richard Martini and you dive in deeper and you ask a question and you say,
You
"Hello,
doing?
how are you?"
So, Lou, I got a question for you because somebody now, Prince, are you here to talk about the fellow who just passed away, who's a musician?
No.
No. And Luana, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
And does he want to talk to us?
Yes.
He
I
does.
have
And does Jennifer know who I'm talking about?
no idea who you're talking
And
about.
he showed up in my kitchen yesterday, and I heard his voice say, "Sorry, I can't say it." But anyway, sorry. You know, when you have a cold, you kind of lose your emotions. He said, "I'd be honored to be on your show."
Oh,
So, Lou, please take it. Who's here?
I'm in my head. I don't know who's here.
All right, well, just allow him to sit down in the chair, and it is a guy. I'll say that. Very good.
I felt it being a guy.
And
And
Luana knew this guy's family, or she knew, I think I don't know how many of his brothers, but she knew at least one. And Lou, do you want to just talk about this fellow?
was this fella in the movies too, or was there anything about the movie?
They made a couple of movies about him,
Okay.
and it's one. If I said any of the names of his songs, you'd know him instantly.
I'm sorry, it's not going to be,
His
it's
first name is Brian. Let's put it that way.
not Brian Adams.
Not Brian Adams.
It's
No,
when you know that we don't talk. We never
no,
do.
that's right. It shows that we don't. No, his
Brian.
name is Brian.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
They did
that's him.
me. Oh
So,
my gosh.
Luana,
Brenda.
you knew Brian's brothers, or
Beach
one of his brothers.
Boys. The Beach Boys. Brian Wilson.
And so, Brian, please tell us who greeted you when you crossed over.
It almost feels like a son or somebody that, like,
Somebody like a youthful person? Was it one of your brothers at a younger age, or was it?
that's it.
Okay, very good.
And then
I know you lost one of your brothers quite a few years ago. And so let me ask you some questions because people I know are curious about. At what point did you realize you were on the flip side?
not for a while, he said. He said not for a while.
Not for a while. And so who helped you realize where you were?
Not Jimi Hendrix. So
Oh, that's funny.
it was funny because I'm like, was it Jimmy? Did Jimmy help? That's so funny. I love this because I love the way they showed me. They showed me a beach ball, and I'm like, oh, Brian Wilson. Um, okay, hold on a second. Okay, say that question again. What was
Question is, it's just about when you crossed over and what was the process like for you? Did you see people? Did you hear things? Did you sense things?
for the okay, that's very interesting. Hold on. He says he's always felt people on the other side. He says he knew that he received his music from elsewhere.
Interesting. I know you talked about that in your lifetime. If you want to just address it a little bit, because people who knew
So
you, go ahead.
give me a second. Let me get more. Oh, it was confusing. Thank you. It was confusing because of that. So for instance, for me, if I go on the other side, it might be a little bit more confusing for me because I'm already there half the time working. And so that's how he showed it to me. He said that he was already, so I don't know his mental state before he passed. I don't know if he said he was drifting away before
Drifting
he,
away? Well, it's kind of a matter of record that he had some emotional and stressful mental issues. But I want
right.
to ask you, sir, was that related to the filters on the brain? And you would understand what I'm talking about. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
And so it was like your filters, were they altered since you were in your youth or your entire life?
His entire life. He showed me as a baby.
And so were you connected to music of the spheres, as they call it? Beethoven said he was that way, that he was connected to the music that was beyond the spheres.
It was beyond this. So he's just like, I love music because it was cool. I just didn't know how important it was for my whole life, like what that would be like.
Well, let me ask you this. There was a conflict with your dad, or please tell us. Once, have you seen your father since you crossed over? And
Yes.
what did you learn from that encounter?
If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have been the Beach Boys.
And but of course there was a problematic journey between the two of you.
Oh, there was a, yeah, he said that he was showing me pushing or physically pushing. Hold on. It had to do with money. There was something that dealt with money.
Sure, that was a big deal because, of course, I think the band tried to move into other areas, and the dad was like, "No, you got to do what makes money."
Right.
But at some point, let me ask you about this. Go ahead.
Nothing. He says he has nothing but love for his dad, that there was something he just wanted so much out of us because he wasn't given that, or there was something about him, like a learned behavior kind of thing.
So part of his journey, let's just say, in terms of vis-a-vis your journey, was to
Was
be.
there anything, was his dad in the military? He showed me somebody in the military as well.
It's very possible,
Or very militant. He was very militant. Maybe
very
his dad.
militant. Oh, well, they had a lot of conflict, but at some point you did have a, let's call it a mental break, with the society, and I don't know how they treated you or mistreated you, but at some point there was a doctor who kind of took you under his wing and then kept you sort of prisoner. And what's your impression or opinion about that? Jennifer's not aware of that, but that was part of the movie that John Cusack and that other actor did. And I actually reviewed Brian for Variety, like his comeback concert. It was on Santa Monica Pier, and he was appearing with this. Can only call him a loopy doctor who had sort of was controlling his life, and they sang songs about water being the best, cure
Yeah.
for. So, what's your opinion about that era, if any?
It created a great show. It's like it is what it is. You
It
can't,
is what it is.
it's he showed me, which is interesting. It's not like you can go back. It becomes part of the matrix of all the things that landed in your lives, not just life, but lives. And he's like, that was just a small portion of
Smidgen of your entire overall thing, and
overall show.
so many musicians have been talking about you today. Paul McCartney, you guys were born a couple days apart. You were so influential with each other. You played with each other. There were so many projects that you did. I know Frank Marshall made a movie about you. All these people are talking about you. Now, let me ask you, are you aware of these conversations people are having about you, or?
I sat in on him, laughing about a lot of them because their perception is very funny. Like he's showing me, I don't know if he ever did doobies or smoked weed or something a long time ago, but he was just showing me that I had great friends. I had a great life despite what happened with my brain or what happened with my family. I felt like I got my family back before I passed. Like there's a lot of things that
A lot of things of closure. Let me ask you this. We had a mutual friend named Van Dyke Parks, and I wonder if you have any message for Van Dyke. He's still on the planet.
make up with yourself and your family, something along the lines.
Okay. Van
I know.
Dyke was friends with Luana. That's how I met him. But I think that's wonderful. I mean, he wrote "The Boy with the Blue Crayon" and all these great songs. He
Oh,
helped.
wow.
He also helped Brian write some albums.
Yeah.
Very.
He's showing me extracting information. So like Van Dyke would extract, would ask the right questions, would ask to get them into, to get him into his state of,
Musical head, his musical composition thing. I see what he's saying.
he
Van
took
Dyke,
the filters, he took the filters away of perception or whatever it was to make him really come through with his authentic.
that's beautifully put.
Yeah.
Because there was a controversy when Van Dyke joined or helped him work together. Other people in the band were like, "I don't even understand these lyrics. What are they?" And they were sort of. Van Dyke Parks is a very elliptical person, and he would talk about things in such like a musical, light, color way, and
Yeah.
he's saying that inspired him.
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful way to put it. Now, listen, how does somebody reach out to you or contact you in their mind's eye?
Play a song, a loop, or if you hear the
Play a
loop.
song,
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
but
Just showed me. So he showed me one of the songs that my dad put into my head when I was going to go see my mom get married after. So my mother, I get around. She's only been with you guys her whole life. And
That's funny. Your mom remarried after your
my
dad
mom,
passed.
yeah, and she knew him. She was so, and thank goodness it happened because it was right before COVID. And I was just laughing. I'm like, Dad, is this really happening? I was surprising my mom at at the wedding, and that song came on, and I just laughed. I get around, do 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 do. I get around, and so he just showed me that. I haven't remembered that. That was so long ago. That was very sweet, though.
Well, I was at Trader Joe's yesterday, and sorry, I'm getting emotional. Um, I had the manager put your music on.
Aw, I
Sorry, and everyone sang.
wish I would have known him. He has the calmest voice, you know, and he's like,
I gotta be careful when I focus. Especially, like I say, I've been ill for a couple of days. It's your emotions are right on the edge, and I apologize to our audience tuning in. But
apologize.
it's important because we're trying to set this precedent, which is anyone can talk to anyone. And Brian's and people, my friends, even friends of mine in the music industry, will say, "There's no way you were talking to Brian." So, Brian, what do you want to tell people?
Interesting, because he's like, it's a language. People listen to my songs without knowing me personally, and it meant something to them, and it brings you back to a place in time of where you were when you heard the song, who you were with. It's a force. It's a force to to understand that it can come in all these different ways. And so, hold on, that was interesting. Hold on.
Like a frequency?
It's a frequency. We're all frequencies, but we can all be frequencies together. It's a consciousness. And so music kind of is the glue for that, like is the glue for you to think or to feel that you have a connection to somebody. Um, and even if you didn't have a connection to somebody, like my dad putting that into my head, right? That I haven't thought about for years, that he put into my head what he gave me through Brian Wilson, that song that made everything okay as I was going to go see my mom.
Well, after the Trader Joe's reaction, everyone's singing. I had this idea to get some Marshall amps and drive around by the protests in front of the National Guard troops and play some Beach Boys full blast because I know they would appreciate it just as much as anyone else would. And also, it would bring peace and calm into a volatile situation because their music spoke about something else. Anyway, that was my thought.
You should. You should.
I
Mhm.
need, I need a pickup truck and Marshall amp or Rick Roll. Rick
Yeah,
Roll.
give me 1 second. Hold on.
Sure.
Because so his friends that don't believe that we're talking to him, he's like, well, they're not wrong. They're just missing out on me being able to talk to him.
Beautifully said.
There is no right or wrong with this, but they're missing out on messages they could receive or songs they could be hearing in their head or
Or answering questions, getting a question answered.
questions. Yeah.
So did you recognize Luana right away or did it take a minute or two?
No, no, it was instant.
Instant. And how does she look to you? I'm just curious.
35. So it's not just her, it's everybody else that everyone's connected with in the music. It's one degree of everyone. And so it's that whole energy that just lights up when that he's home.
Who are you surprised to see over there?
Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin, another one of our class members who shows, and of course, when someone mentions her name, it's like startling. Oh my gosh, the Queen.
Aretha Franklin.
Aretha, do you want to say anything about Brian?
She's saying he's a musical genius that needed more support in getting more music out.
Beautifully said. Cynthia Erivo, the great singer from Wicked, was talking on a talk show the other day, and she told the story of meeting you, Aretha, backstage from Wicked on Broadway. You had gone to see her and you sang to her, and that blew her mind. What's your memory of that event, please?
Everybody was singing along that knew the music anyway. Like she's just showing me people singing along, and she's like, I didn't need a reason to sing. I just knew that it was going to be fun and I could do it, kind of thing.
That's
And it was to be alongside of her and her musical talent as well, not to overshoot. You know what I mean? She's saying that it was
I
to add.
understand, to support her. I mean, it blew Cynthia's mind because here was Aretha. She was one of the cast, as you know, of course, one of the important people in the cast. But here she was coming backstage to talk to her and saying to her, "You can sing," and clearly, she's got great chops.
Yep, that's funny. Um, he says he's so happy to be here.
And tell us about that. What do you mean by that? You're happy to be home. You're happy to be in the class. You're happy to be where?
Sharing with me how restrictive it is in our bodies here. If we how dense it is. And so over there, it's you can be everywhere all at once. You're not restricted. I mean, that's what he's talking about.
There was Rob Lowe wrote an article the other day about how Bill Paxton shows up all the time.
Uh-huh.
And when Bill talked to us, he told us to tell people that he could fly. And in Rob Lowe's story, he tells how in a dream he had Bill took him for a flight. And the emotion of that, just, he was weeping uncontrollably over Bill taking him for a flight. Have you been able to fly yet, Brian? No. Well,
Hold on.
maybe you need Paxton for that.
He just doesn't really need to fly.
No need to fly. Have you heard any instruments or any music since you've been over there? Or tell us, describe, what does that sound like to you? I mean, are you creating it or are you hearing it?
Both, but he's showing me like an orchestra times 100,000 people playing. It would be like an arena with all violins and another arena with all like he's just saying the amount of music is infinite, infinitesimal over there.
So let me ask you, can you get them to perform some of your music, like the musical Smile that you had done? Or is it their music and you're just appreciating it?
Because he could, but that's not what he's focused on.
Okay. And what would you like us to focus on? What do you think people tuning in? Go ahead.
I'd rather hear the Beatles song. Oh my gosh, hold on. The one that John Lennon's,
Imagine?
yeah, sorry.
Should we all sing along? Go ahead, Jennifer. You start. Brian, you'd rather hear it. Now, have you seen John?
Yes.
And what was that like for you to see John Lennon?
It was like two brothers meeting up.
And have you seen?
They didn't really know each other.
Yeah, I know they had met, but and what about George? Have you seen George as well, or is he hanging out in the background?
I've seen everyone. I'm getting to, I just got here. I'm
Getting
getting,
used to the. Well, I'm sorry to interview you so quickly, but I did hear your voice in my house say, I've
oh,
been.
and we've had people that have said no. So
Yeah, we
it's
have.
not,
That's true.
when you ask the question, if I'm going to get that, answer that way, it's very interesting. No, he's
So the question is, have you met Jimmy yet?
not immediately, but yes, eventually we sat down and he's showing me sitting down on like a talk show. Yes.
That's great. And Jennifer and I have
I
heard.
think Jimmy represents doing the life reviews because they go and they sit down, it's on a big screen and friends come and family and
Oh wow! So he's doing the MC.
yeah, he's emceeing their life reviews. All
Wow.
the years. I think that's why we've seen him so much. I mean, maybe
Brian, is that what happened to you?
no.
No. Okay, but so other people, I guess. Charles Grodin mentioned
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Oh, that's so.
Oh, that's funny. It's mainly talk show hosts that get put in that seat.
Okay, because they recognize him like meets like.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I know Jennifer's got to go. Any last words, or Luana? Do you have any last words, or Jim, your dad? Anybody?
He just says, I get around. He put that song in my head. I get around.
I was going to ask, what's a song that we can play you out it with? I get around.
One has access. It's like so think of us as records or tapes or whatever or songs. Everyone has access to songs, right? You don't get told, oh, you can't have that song, right? He's like,
Right.
if you think about it like that, then pull a song out, pull an event out, we're like that. We're like a record. That's so brilliant, actually. If you can buy a song from anywhere, from anyone, you can download it on your phone. He's like, why wouldn't we be it's the same. It's a frequency. The frequencies happens to go into your phone versus your brain, like us talking to you. You believe that you're playing the song, right? But it's coming out of your phone. He's like, why can't you put that belief over there, from there,
Brilliant.
right?
Like perfectly said. They're
Yeah.
always accessible. All you got to do is tune into the frequency.
Yes. And anyone can.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it. Thank you, Prince. Thank you, Jennifer, for your gifts. And thank everybody that showed up today, Aretha and everybody else. I'll try to put you all in the credits.
Remember, don't discount it.
Don't discount it. That's the key word there. And ask the higher selves to talk to the other higher selves to see if you can get the correct outcome.
Yes, thank you, Kurt. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye. This has been Hacking the Afterlife podcast with Jennifer Schaefer. For more information, jenniferschaefer.com, martinizone.com, or richmartini.com. Hacking the Afterlife documentary is available on Gaia.com via Amazon Prime.